Hey, I'm Ryan with Trilix. This is
Michael with Trilix. Hi guys.
when we talk about walking across a bridge or exchanging, silver, those kinds of things. People have been doing this for a lot longer than there's been Web3 around, right? Um, and so, Trilix, we stand on the shoulders of the giants before us. And when approached, in fact, it was you, Michael, that first approached the how is it that we, can we bridge? That was your first question. And I was like, of course we can bridge. That's just moving something from one place to another. But you wanted me to think more about it. And in thinking of it, the first thing that came to me was there's a very weird situation that's happening here, right? Bridging is by definition a place where you need as much trust as possible because you're moving value from one entity to another, and the framework for the value is changing at the same time. We won't talk Web3. Let's just talk, buying a house, right? I used to live here. I'm trying to sell my house. You're trying to buy my house. I don't know you, but I would really like your money. You don't know me, but you want a house that's not going to collapse the day you move into it, right? So what do we do, right? How do we do that? Well, we bring in third parties that are not interested in the asset. They're interested in being a reliable place to put your thoughts and trust to validate the asset. You bring in people to, property inspectors who will go and say, yep, this thing is not going to fall down. And if it does, my signature on this piece of paper means you can come sue me because I missed something, right? You bring in a title company whose job it is to make sure that that guy actually owns the house and they didn't just squat in it for the last month and then try and sell it to you, right? They go and investigate the history of the property and find out, you bring in lots of these different experts who are not, again, interested in the asset, but they're interested in the safety and security of the exchange itself, the transaction that's happening, to help make that a safer thing so that the trust gets added. In fact, you actually move the money with a third party, right? You create this notion of escrow where, my money goes into the escrow account, you fulfill your side of the bargain, and then it becomes your money and I get the keys, right? In the same moment by a third party. It's not, you don't hand me the keys. It's the title company or the escrow company that hands me the keys. So, when I was thinking about the bridging, the first thing I said was, wait a minute, where's the escrow company here? Because all bridges are essentially built the same way. On my side, or we'll keep the model. If I'm getting your house, you've got a house on chain one, right? You essentially lock that house so that the best thing you can say is, I can't sell it anymore during the bounds of this transaction. No one else can take it away from me. I'm not going to give it anywhere else. You lock it up. And over here, I take some assets and I say, okay, I'm going to lock my assets up over here. And then we agree on some means that, this number of mine equals that many of yours, right? And we agree on that, with communications, secured or not. There's ways to try and make that. And then in some moment of time, not clock time, because blocks don't work that way. Blocks work by vector time, by which is the next block. I release mine to you and you release yours to me on the other entity. Again, it's actually creating a new thing on either side, and they move with nothing in the middle to ensure that that was done properly, safely, the correct way, or anything like that, right? So I said, well, wait, why couldn't we just having escrow, right? Just escrow alone, some entity that had a representative on both sides of the fence, that you could, that person, uninterested could be the thing that did stuff. That alone would be more interesting, or at least safer, right? And I'm not trying to make it sound like escrow is the best solution in the entire world for doing exchange. I'm just pointing out that it's a well understood paradigm with hundreds of years of backing, right? We know it works. It may not be perfect. There's ways to mess with it, but just because it's old doesn't mean it's not considered a best practice. And so my question was, why not do that? So, one of the things that we did technically on the Trilix side is we thought through escrow. How would we implement a bridge? And that was my answer back to Michael, after going through all this, is like, I would implement escrow, right? That's how I would do it. And then you came back and said, well, that's not very decentralized. And I said, why do I want somebody I've never met in Zambia having a part of this? That to me is even worse. Right? I just want it to happen the way I want it to happen. So yeah, I fully admit that the notion of a custodial holder of value in the middle of this, which is effectively what escrow would be, doesn't entertain decentralization. But my response to that would be, why on earth do I want to entertain decentralization when my only goal in life is to make this one transaction between two known entities happen?
The argument for decentralization of bridges. I mean, yeah, we had a lot of discussion about this. The, let's say, main advantage is not to have democracy and people voting was right and was wrong. The way I see it is the main argument for decentralization is the availability of the service. And the way I see it is this. Yes, there is a finite and well understood numbers or number of validators on Polygon or Polkadot, but it's more than one or two, right? So if there is a meteor strike and one of the validators goes out of business, you have this 99 who's still going to propagate the blockchain. And this is what I would expect as a user of a blockchain from a bridge. So if I'm comfortable trusting the Polkadot validators or Polygon validators that they're actually going to maintain the chain that says how much assets do I have, I wouldn't expect anything less in terms of availability and reliability from a bridging service. Yeah. So this is the argument, right? So I don't want a situation where, okay, I have a very secure bridge for as long as this one party is actually interested in doing it or capable, because maybe the meteor strike and now all those smart contracts are locked out. So I want to have a situation where I really like what you said. You have disinterested party and maybe disinterested as in the validators physically cannot touch the assets that are transferring, right? Then they are very disinterested because they only get paid if they do their job right.
Right.
And there's no incentive of changing governance or creating a rule or a consensus that now Michael's tokens are our tokens. So I like this notion. What I would like to have is a system where we have the escrow that is operated by some parties that specialize in that and are disinterested, but also there's just more than one entity, right? Just for the sake of me being, let's say, comfortable that there has to be more than one catastrophe at the same time for this bridge to go out, right?
Yes. And I would say to that, I understand. And so it sounds like the main interest would be ensuring the longevity of the behavior.
Correct.
During it, not just during the actual event, but ensuring that that can happen, long after the effect. I will also point out that no one uses dinars anymore. And that there are currencies that die out over time, even ones that had lasted for hundreds of years. And so there's no such thing as forever, although that's also another podcast though, because we gotta talk through what forever means, right? But what I would say is that decentralization does do a good job of ensuring the viability of a platform.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as long as a platform is available and there is a mechanism that you, the individual, can leverage to utilize it, because that, there's two things there, right? Then that does help. However, decentralization is not the only way to make things have longevity, right? There's other approaches to that. But second of all, well, probably out of order, the most important thing I'll point out though is in the case of a bridge, your longevity is fractured in at least the number of endpoints of the bridge, right? So if you've got two pylons, whichever is the weakest pylon is going to inevitably, in a decentralized state, become the availability you get. So if you're going from, I don't want to call anybody out because it'll sound mean. So chain C over to Polygon, right? And Polygon has an availability score of 1, and chain C has an availability score of 0.2, right? No matter how great it's going to be, 0.2 is the best that you're going to be able to get. And there is no incentive whatsoever for Polygon to improve the availability of chain C, right? They would rather you move everything over and leave it there. And so again, it calls back to this notion that we started with, is like, it takes a disinterested third party to become interested in the safety and behavior itself in order to improve any of that. And do we have all the answers yet? No, right? I don't want to act like we do, because we're new and we're still thinking through it, but at least we're thinking through it, right? And we are interested in the behavior, especially as the behavior, goes between the islands. And so we're working on it. There's definite ways that you can improve it. There's things that can be done strictly on the behavior itself, like just having a record that the money was there at some point, right, is a benefit. Right now, again, back to FTX, right? There's what, $16 billion? We don't know where it is, just gone.
Yeah.
At least they could have written down that it's, my $1,000 came at this point over here, and I've got proof that it was at some point over there, right?
Yeah.
That alone, it would be useful, even in that case. So yeah, we got to start at the bottom, and we'll figure some of this out. But at least somebody's thinking about it, right? It's time everybody thought about it, but we're gonna try and lead the charge, I guess.
No, yeah. But I mean, we have some ideas, right? How to solve
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I think generally speaking that we call it the third 3-pylon bridge. You got the the center support or whatever, and we're trying to create that structure. I used escrow as an example, but there's lots of other types of things, notaries and things like that, where we use third parties to reduce the friction or increase the safety, however you want to, there's different things you can do within transactions. And yeah, we are thinking through a lot of those cases, and we have some ideas. Notary, for example, is very easy to implement. All you have to do is write down on another place what happened in between these two places, right? So that you're no longer dependent on that. And the more times you write
Polygon and chain C, you can also write to Ethereum.
Yeah, you write on Ethereum or write it on Solana or write on both, like, yeah, there's lots and lots of copies of the Constitution, right? If we lose the first one, it's okay. We got lots of them, right? That kind of thing helps, right? And it sounds boring, but you know what? Lots of copies, it works well. If you lose one, got more. That's a good thing. And so, a proper notary service would do exactly that, right? The fact that I tried to walk across the bridge and didn't succeed. I tried and I did succeed. I tried, and even better, I tried with this amount of value over here, which was worth this at the time, over to that, and this is what it happened to be. And then you link it to a third set of value that was available at the time, so that no one can come back and change the history on either side and go, oh, well, it turns out, you thought it was 1,000, it was worth 1,000 of something, it was really worth 2 of something. Well, no, according to this at the time, it was worth this, and you're not in charge of governing the value there.
Well, excellent. So now I have to read off the script. Where can people find us?
You can find us at Trilix.io on the web, but no one uses the web anymore. So you follow our tweets, talk to us, and tell us where you want us to be, and we'll come find you.
Excellent. Thank you.